Hello, everyone. This is Greg Aden, and I'm coming to you live from Denver, Colorado with a new friend, someone I met through a dear friend of mine, Dr. Monica Mallet, who's out in LA, who spoke at one of my leadership development series events. But she said, Greg, you've got to meet Dr. Steve Ralph. He's moved there from LA. He's now in Denver. And I just have a feeling that you all are going to get along really well. So I want to introduce you, Dr. Steve Ralph, to my world. Followers on the Servant Leadership Podcast. And first of all, welcome to Denver, and great
Thank you
to
for
have you on
having
the
me.
show.
Yeah.
My pleasure. So you know me now. We've had breakfast. We've had a few Zooms. We're going to be helping each other's companies have more impact. I like saying that. But tell us a little bit about yourself. You've got a lot of things going on in your young career already. So tell us about what is it you do, but please leave us with the why of it all.
Sure, absolutely. So I would say there's a few areas I focus in, but it's all in the same lane of creativity and innovation. So I'm the founder of the Epic Impact Society, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about. It's a nonprofit, and we basically work an international community of professionals that promote creative leadership, ingenuity, social innovation through arts, education, and humanitarian engagement. So we put on our annual Epic International Summit, which we'll have our next one in April. So that's one area that I work on. I'm also a professor at Pepperdine University in Malibu, and I teach and design the creativity and innovation courses for the Grazia Business School. I also have my own practice, which is Open Ingenuity. So I work with companies designing and facilitating creativity workshops, creative thinking workshops, and I'm also a licensed trainer with the Strategic Play Group based in Canada. So using Lego Serious Play in the boardroom. So and my hands are in different areas, but it's all related to creativity and innovation. So
You had me at humanitarian engagement. What does that mean?
that means, using what we do is we use creativity workshops. We do what we call epic impact projects. And so we go out to work with local charities, local nonprofits, and we do pro bono creativity workshops to help them come up with innovative ideas to solve real-time challenges. So, for example, we worked with a nonprofit in Skid Row in LA called School on Wheels. And so I was there, did a full-day workshop on creative problem solving to address a challenge there. And we've worked with United Way in Santa Barbara to tackle the issue of homelessness using Lego Serious Play. So just using creativity and unique ways to solve real-time challenges.
Helping humans engage in a way to help other humans grow.
Absolutely.
Wow. And do it creatively. I mean, if you think about it, we as men and women adults, we love to play. We never will end up, a lot of us have maybe put the Legos away, but as a 60-year-old man, I still have two sons, 11 and 13. And frankly, we play with Legos all the time.
Yep.
So why Legos, and why not some of the other blocks and things with wheels and other brands?
Well, Lego, the whole philosophy behind Lego Serious Play methodology is using the bricks it's basically called 3D thinking. You have business challenges, and instead of having these long discussions about topics related to a challenge, you build your answers. So it's a whole process where people go through, and it's you build artifacts for what you're thinking and have discussions. And it's a communication tool to help teams collaborate more. It helps unlock creativity. And so there's a lot of different uses for Lego, but it's building that artifact, sharing your story. What is, it's metaphorical thinking. So it's a great tool to engage in a unique way. So
beautiful. Love what you said. It's a great tool to engage in a unique way. You have a lot of things, like you said, are tied together. So take a step back from what you do and how you do it. But what is your why? Why did you decide to get into this space, Dr. Steve Ralph?
Well, one of my biggest passions is being a bridge to help people identify more of their purpose, and that's one area, but also a bridge into possibilities. So I love designing experiences to help people unlock, new insights and a lot of creativity and things where they felt like there was a dead end, equipping people with tools into what could be. And so the various avenues that I do that in, whether that's in the classroom, in the boardroom, with professionals at conferences, it's really to encourage that. And I like doing it in a disruptive way, in a positive sense. We get locked into a fixed mindset and how we solve challenges, how we approach, doing a meeting or an event. And when we disrupt that, we try something new. We open up new neural pathways. It allows for new experiences.
Well, it's funny you when you say, when a lot of us hear disruptive, we hear that maybe as a negative, right? Mm-hmm. But when you say disruptive, I feel it as a positive, like you said, a bridge to purpose and a bridge to possibility. I had a guest on my show the other day, and that's all we talked about was purpose and a man or a woman or an organization's value. And love it. As you know, coming up in February, we're going to have a series that allows us to be more creative and talk more creative about our leadership. And I'm happy for you to. I'm glad you're going to be there, and I'm glad you're going to close us up, because I'm now listening to a variety of ways that you can have even a greater impact. Dare I say, an epic impact on the people in my room. Tell us about your conference coming up in April.
It originated when I was in my doctoral program, and, I was attending various creativity conferences and doing workshops or speaking, and they were all great. I just felt like there were certain things I really wanted to emphasize in the unique experience. And one of those was the cross-pollination. So often when we go to conferences, it's the marketing conference or the IT conference, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was one element. The other was with my research on technology and information overload and how that impacts creativity. Yeah. I wanted to see if we could create an experience where it's not required, but people were encouraged to unplug for 3 days during the summit. And, when you fill out a registration, you answer some questions. I threw one in there when we did our first event, and I said, would you be willing to take the disconnect pledge for 3 days? And I thought maybe 50% would want to, but 100% wanted to. So I found that interesting. I asked the workshop leaders, hey, here's who's coming. Would you mind unplugging? Which was an interesting challenge for some because they're used to, presenting on, a screen and so on, but everybody did. And that was one of the most impactful moments because people were more present. They weren't distracted. Mm-hmm. And again, nothing against technology, but it was something to provide that space where we really reflect on the question, are we managing our devices or are they managing us? Mm-hmm. And how does that relate to creativity, right? So that was another element. So out of this doctoral program, in 2019, we launched the Epic International Summit. And there was a surreal moment during lunch where I stood up, I looked and I saw such a diverse array of individuals attending. We had a university dean, a NASA scientist, and an actor. All these people, different people are engaging in ways that, that's not a typical conference per se, right? And then the feedback I got was that how often do you get to have, share a meal with people from totally different industries and all focused on wanting to be a more creative leader. Yeah. And so that's kind of a core element of Epic. And definitely excited to come back in April in Santa Barbara. So,
amen. And looking forward to attending it, looking forward to being a part of it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your trust in me and being able to bring some value. The cross-pollination of different hearts, different ways of life, and not everybody talking tech or talking marketing or sales or whatever. Brilliant idea. Absolute brilliant. And I love the fact that you've actually brought up one of my favorite words, and that's being present. Mm. I believe as leaders, as men, women in relationship or out of relationship, the only way we can have better relationships if we're truly present with the human being. You said it, not me. Human engagement, humanitarian engagement. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to engage with another human being if you're not present. Yeah. And if you want to argue that one, let's do it some other time. But it's just impossible when you're staring at a freaking screen.
Right.
Or walking around with something in your hand. I see it all the time, and it's a head scratcher. it's just a head scratcher. So God bless you for the technology challenge or being present. It's, again, brilliant idea. What are some of the things you absolutely want to achieve between now and then, Dr. Steve, so you are prepared for a successful conference? What are you working on that some of my listeners might help or hear and maybe come to help you?
Yeah, well, we're in the middle of pre-production and just spreading the word. I mean, Epic is fairly new. We launched in 2019 as an official nonprofit, which is the Epic Impact Society, and then we have the International Summit. So, spreading the word. We have such an amazing group of people coming this time around, and our program is very dynamic. So there's different. It's not just workshops. It's not just panels. We have themed panels. We have experiential workshops, but we also have what we call epic conversation interviews. We end with an innovation awards night where we honor change makers, individuals and organizations. So spreading the word that this is happening April 27th through the 29th would be wonderful. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you can get to the event by going to your main page at epicimpactsociety.com, correct?
Yeah, epicimpactsociety.org or epicsummit.com, either one.
Okay. So as one of the first things that came to my heart when we met for breakfast, Dr. Steve, was to ask you to participate in my conference in February, Leadership Development Series. And again, it might not have the name I want it to, but it's all about helping human beings develop as leaders, which in my mind starts with self.
Yep.
And when we become better human beings, we become more powerful in our impact. It can be positive if we want it to be, but it can also be more powerful in a negative way. So my view has always been, let's be a catalyst for the way people view leaders. Whether you're a manager or supervisor, I believe if you are involved in other human beings, you have an opportunity for leadership at least. And in parenting, raise your hand if you disagree with this one, but I believe parenting and leadership are connected at the hip.
Absolutely.
Yep. And there is no work-life balance. I believe there's, like my guest prior to you said, there's life-work synergy, which means, you have a life and you fit your work into it. Yep. And it's not a competing force.
Absolutely.
You can't be victims to your family and victim to your work, or they're so much more powerful, and you have a polar opposite behavior when you're with one group or the other. So back to that. In short, I asked you to participate and you said yes. Tell me a little bit about your decision about wanting to participate in Leadership Development Series in February.
Well, what you just shared, I'm in complete alignment with. In fact, the way I design my courses, the way I design my workshops, it's an inside-out approach that I have, and it starts with you. You meaning myself, right? Yeah. You can't lead others into whatever you're working with them on. You can't, for example, I can't lead others into creativity unless I lead myself first. So that needs some time of reflection. That needs some time of really, how do I show up in the world? Right. And getting that feedback from, trusted people in your life. And so when you were sharing the vision behind the event, I felt very much in alignment, especially in my area of creativity and innovation. The challenge that I find in my domain is that you have organizations where the leaders are like, we need more innovation, but they don't understand that you need to give space for the creative process to get to innovation. And so again, that's a disconnect there. And so any opportunity where I can have a conversation or share the importance for leaders to understand that, that's a passion of mine, because I feel like there's all these myths around creativity, and we have to debunk them and see the responsibility leaders have to understand that so that they can leap forward in innovation.
Beautiful. And you mentioned something that's very important to me, and that is create time to be more innovative, be more creative, be more present. And again, we are very good at letting people know how busy we are, how much work we've got ahead of us. And I rarely hear another human being say, the best way to get something done is to focus on one thing at a time. And it's called your calendar.
Yeah.
When you put something on your calendar, honor it. And I've said this on my show a few times. I'd love your feedback, Dr. Steve, on this one is, why do we put so much on our calendar and then speed right through it? And then we complain about how busy we were all day and we couldn't get to the things we said we were going to accomplish. When you hear me say that, what's the first thing that comes into your mind of why it happens with so many other people? And how do you honor your word around what you say you're going to accomplish in a day, in a week? Because that's where the juice is.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's a direct reflection of where our world is going with the pace of the growth of technology, the pace of change. All this is driving this constant beyond, you're always plugged in, there's no boundaries. Everything's automated. We're going in that direction, right? If this is the trend, we have to be stronger in setting our boundaries. And this whole concept of pausing is going to become more and more important, of setting those times and figuring out what is it that you do where you feel fed.
Yeah.
And for some people, that could be different things, right? Some people could be taking a walk, taking a hike, meditating, whatever that may be. But the first thing is identifying what that is. The next thing is reflecting on when you have those moments, what's happening for you? Where are you getting your inspiration? And then from there, mapping out how you're going to have more of those experiences. It's almost like creating a game plan, so that you can, because the pace of change is not going to get any slower. It's going to only increase. So it's our responsibility as leaders to go, okay, so how do I navigate that? And I think that's what's going to set apart effective leaders in the future. Just because we have all this disruption, but really the disruptive leader, this is kind of my heart right now, like a passion of mine is talking about disruptive leadership, is, we talk about disruptive leaders, and a lot of times we think of the big names in tech. But as what does disruption really mean? It means going against the flow. Mm-hmm. So if the flow is going to be towards automation, and everything's so now, is a disruptive leader of the future going to be somebody that shows more of the human effect, that is going to take the time they need to pause and to, instead of sending a text, call somebody, meet face to face. Those are questions that I have, that I'm curious to see how that evolves.
Well, there's so much you said right there. We could have a whole nother podcast on it, but the nuggets were, for me at least, when do you feel fed? Mm-hmm. I love that. Where do you get your life from? Where do you get your joy from? And whatever it is, no judgment. And when I say you, maybe another time we can discuss that. But in short, where do you feel? When do you feel, Dr. Steve Ralph, when you're fed? Is it family? Is it quiet? I mean, just give us some insight into when do you feel fed?
There's a few distinct areas. One is definitely with family. My kids are really good at that. Just spending time, it energizes me. Being out in nature is a big one for me. I've always been connected to nature, and I have an interest in biomimicry, which is innovation inspired by nature. So that's definitely going hikes, and the third is traveling. And for traveling, it doesn't have to be exotic, but when you travel, especially if it is out of the country, you're disrupted in a sense of how you see things, and it leads to new insights. And so, so those are kind of the three areas: spending time with family, being outdoors, and traveling.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. And I would encourage you, if those of you that are listening to this, ask yourself that question and make time for it. When I say make time for it, I'm pleading with you to put it on your calendar, and it has no stop sign. You can't run through it. If you want to accomplish something, make time for it. And again, it's so simple, but yet we like to talk about how much we've accomplished and how busy we are instead of how we want to feel. And I believe a disruptive leader and disruptive leadership is that person that says, no more. We need to connect. And the only way we're going to connect, ladies and gentlemen, human beings, however you identify with yourself, we need to be present with one another. And if it's through a creative workshop, God bless you. If it's through just communicating and being present and putting your phones down, calling somebody. Wow, what a great idea. Calling someone and hearing their voice and having someone answer the phone because they want to actually hear your voice. It's that would be a whole nother topic. Is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with as you look in your rearview mirror when you decided your why? Leave us with how other leaders might find more purpose, more value in becoming a better leader. And when I say better, I mean adaptive, innovative, disruptive, creative, etc. I don't want to overuse the word better, but I don't know what else to say when someone is questioning their value and isn't on purpose. So what would you say to those leaders that are maybe struggling with value and or purpose as they find their why?
I think my biggest thing is that it is a process, and it doesn't end.
No.
It's continual. And, just when you think, hey, okay, I'm starting to get into a rhythm, there's maybe a turn around the corner in this journey where you're like, wow, I didn't realize that this is an area I need to grow in, or this is a strength I bring. I didn't realize that. And now I'm getting the feedback. So one, I'd say, is recognizing it is a journey. There'll be ups and downs and exciting, thrilling parts and kind of boring, dull parts. But the other thing is go to if you're attending conferences, go to a workshop you normally wouldn't attend, or go to a conference you normally wouldn't attend, or talk with people you normally wouldn't, or like join a group. Like having those experiences that you typically wouldn't do is a good exercise, because at least from my experience, you find different perspectives on challenges, maybe yourself as a leader, and you have an opportunity to make amazing connections that way that you normally wouldn't do if you just stayed in your same kind of routine, So.
Amen. Wow. Again, so many things there. Seek new experiences. You didn't say the word, but I heard you say be curious about other workshops that you haven't attended. And two things I want to just say again that you said is seek your own growth and honor your strengths. You didn't say honor, but I believe when we do, we know what we're good at. And now let's be tempted. Let's be curious or interested in things we're not as good at. And we don't need people to tell us what we suck at. We know.
Yeah.
Because we hide. We don't spend time on them. But just well said. I appreciate it. And Dr. Steve Ralph, now in Denver, Colorado, used to be in LA now. And love the fact you're connected to one of my favorite spots in the entire world, and that's Santa Barbara. And I can't wait to see you there personally and have you on stage with us on Thursday, February 9th, here in the downtown Golden at the Buffalo Rose. I don't know if you and your wife have ever been there, but it's an iconic place in downtown Golden. So I invite you to visit it. They've been good to us. But thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to get to know you. And I know I've already introduced you to one of my favorite groups in the entire state, and that's the Colorado Thought Leader Forum. I was at an event last week, and Robert Ham said that you guys have already had a nice conversation. So I hope that works out for you. And to all of you that are members of CTLF, I'm coming back. I forgot to tell people that earlier today. But anyway, great to see you, Dr. Steve Ralph. Thanks for being with us, and continue to all of you listening, think about how you might be positively disrupting something when something needs to be positively disrupted. Be that person and be creative in your leadership. And so with that, I leave you with this. God bless. Be kind, be considerate. Think about somebody else before yourself every once in a while. And if it requires a call, or it's offering an opportunity to call someone and say, hey, I've been thinking about you. I'm grateful for our relationship. Do it more than once a year, but at least maybe start the trend in around Thanksgiving. But again, thanks for being with us, Steve, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You bet.